Hi guys, so in this video I just wanted to show you how to transfer your site measurements onto a plan. And I'll start off by sharing or going to my overhead camera. So here's an example of a site measurement. Perhaps you're going to go about this process in a similar way. What I love to do is actually use pencil and grid paper when I do a bit of site measurement. Um, and perhaps you've used a tape measure to do this work. Always helpful to have at least one other person helping you with this process, or even you get three people to help you out. It's even quicker. Um, and so you've created a bit of a measure up of your site. So you've got your boundary uh, going around the site. Just for an example, I've chosen 40 meters by 20 meters as my site dimensions, just to be consistent with the other two videos that I also put up. You've indicated the outline of the house, including the dashed lines, which are the roof line of the house. Very important to do. Um, you've got features like, sheds, a sewerage manhole, water coming into the property, overhead power lines, the edge of a garden, perhaps a large tree. Um, have a look at the uh, site assessment checklist, which is part of the assignment, to get a bit of an indication of what sort of things you probably need to be picking up, or at least be looking at, making a decision whether you need to pick them up or not. Um, and then you've got dimensions. So you've gone over the tape measure. You've you've measured dimensions. How far is that wall off from the fence, for example, of your property? 1,500 millimeters in this case. The shed is 500 millimeters from the fence. The driveway edge is 1 meter um, from the fence, and you've measured up garden beds and what have you. Okay, so that's great. You've got a bit of a mud map of your place. You've done a great amount of measurements. How are you going to how are you going to put that onto your plan? So in previous videos, I've shown how to get the overall dimensions for your property. If you're using the Q globe method, but you can use any method you want really to get those dimensions. And I've also shown in another video how to determine the appropriate scale for your um, site to fit on an A3 size sheet. So if I bring an A3 size sheet into the overhead camera space, and I've started to draw up my mud map to scale on the A3 sheet. Okay, and I've chosen a scale in this case of 1 is to 200. All right, so there we go. That's 40 meters, and that's 20 meters at a scale of 1 is to 200. So when I put my scale rule on, um, making sure I've got the right scale down here, 1 is to 200, and I measure that across, you'll see, hopefully you might be able to see, might be a little bit blurred. 40 meters is indicated on my scale ruler. Okay. So that's all very well and good. What else do I want to do? I want to actually indicate, for example, let's go with the shed. Okay. The shed is 500 millimeters off from the wall, so or the fence. So if I want to um, with my scale ruler, I can just measure half a meter or 500 millimeters. I can use this with a pencil. If you're not that confident, use a sharp pencil. My pencil probably should be a lot sharper. Um, and I need to include a dimension from the boundary. So maybe it's 5 meters off. So I've indicated there 500 mils. Okay. And my shed is 5 meters, 5 meters off the front boundary. Okay. And so I can measure to that point. That's where my shed is. And say my shed is, oh, I don't know, um, 4 meters by 3 meters. Okay. So I would then measure 3 meters by 4 meters. Okay. And there's my little shed at the right scale. Okay. 3 meters by 4 meters. All right. So I've sort of used a technique when I've gone out on site to measure called offsets of offsetting from the fence 500 mil. I've offsetted uh, from the front of the property 5 meters. Now, the longer that length gets with offsets, the more inaccurate it can be. So you probably want to limit the offset method to 5 meters. You want to go like 10 or 20 meters because you could be quite out off 90 degrees. So you want to use a trilateration method um, to get that measurement right. So then I can just go over with a nice pen and draw up my shed. Okay, so there's my shed, drawn at the appropriate scale in the right location. Okay, so that's that method. Um, that's one way of doing it. So the next thing I'm going to do is indicate or plot out the location of the tree. Okay, so to do that, I'd want to be using a compass, right? So I'm going to come back and show you how to do that. Okay, so I've plotted in the shed on our site. But what if I also want to plot in this tree and its tree trunk, which I've measured to be 3 meters off the corner of the property and offset 2 meters from the property fence. Okay, so how do we do that? So we use a little bit of offset and a little bit of trilateration with this technique. So we've measured 3 meters and 2 meters, and using a compass or a circle template, we can plot out the location of that tree. So 3 meters at a scale of 1:200. If I get my compass and put that at the right length of 3 meters, so that's 3 meters there. Okay. And I can swing an arc of 3 meters. And then the other key dimension here was 2 meters. So wherever that 2 meters intersects with the 3 meters, that's where the tree will be located. So if I just come along with my tape measure, with my scale ruler, I should say, and indicate where on the arc that I've just drawn, where 2 meters is. And remember, we don't have to be super accurate with this. We can, in landscaping work, you can be up to half a metre out with landscaping, placement of trees, that sort of thing. Um, uh, I'm not too concerned. Maybe depending on what you're doing or measuring, perhaps a bit more accurate with the house. Trees, not so much. So that's how I've located the tree. So I swung that arc with the compass and then measured that 2 meter offset. So the center point of that tree is in there. It's actually pretty accurate, really. Um, Now, if we also had some dimensions on the canopy width, that'd be good to put in as well. And remember, with trees, they're never circular. We represent them as a circle, but in reality, trees can be quite different organic sort of shapes in their canopy edges. But we can measure that. We could potentially have measured, a dimension out to there. Maybe that was 5 meters. Um, maybe that was 3 meters. And so we can plot that on the plan as well. You know, with our scale ruler, we could essentially be putting that 5 meter, 1:200 in there, um, and that 3 meter at 1:200, and maybe that's the edge of our tree. Okay, in there. All right. Um, so that's a method of doing that. We'll get into more into trilateration, I think, during week 3 of the course. Okay, guys. So there you go. There's a bit of a taster into how you would go about setting out some of your features on the plan. And of course, you can use pencil for this. You can use pen for this stuff. I've used an Artline pen. Come and see me about sort of drawing equipment that you might want to use. Um, but whichever way you do it, I don't really care. The point is just so we're not asking you to be drafts people. We're asking you just to be able to represent your your site on a base plan with as much accuracy as you can give it, um, using an appropriate scale. Okay, thanks.